400 years before Europe even dreamed of women in power, Africa had a queen who defied empires. They tried to break her kingdom, so she built another in exile. She turned war into strategy, slavery into rebellion, exile into empire. When they denied her a throne, she made her own. This is not just history. This is resistance carved in blood and brilliance. Stay with us, because what you're about to witness will rewrite everything you thought you knew about power. Welcome to Africa History. Born around 1582 into the royal family of the Mbundu-speaking kingdom of Ndongo, Queen Nzinga Mbande emerged from a world already engulfed in warfare and shifting power. Ndongo, located in what is today Angola, was under increasing threat from Portuguese colonial expansion, which sought to dominate Central African trade routes and feed the growing transatlantic slave trade. Her father, Nola Quilombo Kia Kasenda, ruled a territory whose very name, Nola, would later lend itself to the modern name Angola. From her earliest years, Nzinga witnessed the military struggles of her people against European intrusion as the Portuguese established Luanda on the coast in 1575 and began pressing inland to capture slaves and resources. This constant pressure produced a militarized society in which the art of survival depended on tactical brilliance and diplomacy. When her father died, the Ndongo throne passed to her brother, Mbande Angola, under whose reign internal purges and Portuguese aggression escalated. Nzinga, already recognized for her intelligence and negotiation skills, was sent in 1622 as a royal envoy to the Portuguese governor in Luanda. The encounter became legendary. Denied a chair, Nzinga commanded one of her attendants to kneel, using him as a living seat so she could meet the governor eye to eye. This symbolic act announced her defiance and demanded equality, a gesture that foreshadowed the kind of psychological and political warfare she would later master. She also converted to Christianity during that visit, adopting the name Ana de Sousa, a move as strategic as it was spiritual, intended to placate her adversaries and buy time for her people. When her brother died 2 years later, likely by suicide amid defeat and humiliation, Nzinga assumed control. She first acted as regent for his infant son, but soon eliminated rivals, securing the throne in her own right in 1624. In a patriarchal society where female sovereignty was nearly unthinkable, Nzinga's ascension was itself a conquest. Her first years on the throne were marked by a military crisis. Portuguese armies and their Imbangala mercenary allies pressed hard against Ndongo, seizing forts, burning villages, and enslaving thousands. Nzinga responded not merely as a ruler but as a commander, turning her court into a war council and preparing to transform her kingdom into a fortress of resistance. After losing much of Ndongo to Portuguese-backed armies in 1626, Queen Nzinga quickly adapted to the new reality of survival through strategy rather than submission. Her brilliance lay not only in her valor, but in her mastery of alliance building, transforming exile into the foundation of a new empire. She withdrew to the swampy islands of Kindonga along the Kwanza River, where she rebuilt her following into a disciplined fighting force. There, Nzinga encountered the Imbangala, fierce warrior bands notorious for their ferocity and strict martial codes. Recognizing their potential, she allied with them through a symbolic marriage to one of their chiefs, merging her royal authority with their military expertise. This union created a hybrid army that fused the organization of the Mbundu court with the Imbangala's guerrilla efficiency. Nzinga introduced a merit-based command structure, rewarding courage and competence over birthright. Soldiers underwent rigorous training in ambush, close combat, and riverine warfare. Her camp at Ndongo became a training ground for fugitives, ex-slaves, and displaced Ndongans, who were molded into warriors, spies, and scouts, bound by loyalty and survival. Nzinga also understood the politics of power, adopting masculine symbols of kingship armor, weaponry, and the title Ngola. She projected authority that transcended gender, intimidating allies and foes alike. Diplomatically, she reached beyond the battlefield, securing ties with the Kingdom of Congo and later the Dutch, who occupied Luanda in 1641. Her alliance with the Dutch and King Garcia II of Congo almost expelled the Portuguese from Angola, as Nzinga's troops coordinated ambushes and supply raids around Luanda. Religion became another of her weapons. She wielded Christianity, strategically embracing or renouncing it to suit her objectives. By the 1630s, she had conquered Matamba, establishing a fortified, centralized base from which she launched decades of brilliant resistance. Nzinga had turned exile into an empire. From her stronghold in Matamba, Nzinga unleashed a long series of military campaigns that would define her reign and her legend. Between the late 1620s and the 1650s, she waged war with a ferocity and discipline rarely seen in African resistance to early European colonization. Her strategy blended mobility, deception, terrain mastery, and psychological warfare. Above all, it revealed a deep understanding of both indigenous and European forms of combat. She refused to meet the Portuguese on their terms of open field battle unless she had the advantage. Instead, she drew them into the forests, rivers, and ravines, where her troops excelled in ambushes, quick raids, and sudden disappearances into terrain that Portuguese horses and musketeers could not master. In the years following her expulsion from Ndongo, Nzinga conducted a relentless guerrilla campaign against Portuguese forts and their African allies. Her forces raided trading posts, intercepted caravans carrying slaves to Luanda, and attacked Imbangala warbands loyal to the Portuguese crown. Between 1626 and 1629, her army executed a series of lightning strikes along the Kwanza River, capturing weapons and freeing enslaved people. Each victory replenished her ranks. The Portuguese found themselves fighting not a conventional army, but an elusive network of fortified encampments that constantly shifted location. Nzinga's forces were trained to travel light, strike fast, and disappear before the enemy could retaliate. She built a network of scouts and spies, many of them women, who infiltrated enemy lines disguised as traders or servants to gather intelligence on troop movements. Her first great victory came in the early 1630s, when she defeated the puppet ruler Ngola Ahari, whom the Portuguese had installed to replace her as king of Ndongo. By attacking both Ngola Ahari's army and Portuguese detachments supporting him, Nzinga reclaimed sections of her ancestral homeland and proved that her exile had not diminished her legitimacy. The psychological impact of this victory was immense. Many Ndongo nobles and warriors who had fled earlier Portuguese conquest now returned to her banner, swelling her army and reaffirming her authority as the true Ngola. This resurgence allowed her to reorganize her command structure into regional divisions, each led by generals who reported directly to her war council. Nzinga herself often led from the front, riding into battle armed with a spear and flanked by her elite guards, known as the Sons of the Jaguar, who swore oaths of loyalty to defend her to death. By 1631, her capture of Matamba provided not only a new capital, but also access to vital trade routes along the Kwango River. Matamba became a fortress state. Nzinga ordered the construction of stockades, watchtowers, and hidden armories. Her engineers developed wooden palisades and fortified earthworks around key river crossings. and her generals trained archers and musketeers together in coordinated attacks. The Portuguese, reliant on rigid European formations, often found themselves overwhelmed by Nzinga's adaptive warfare ambushes that blended traditional African mobility with stolen European weaponry. She imported muskets through Dutch and African intermediaries, ensuring her forces could return fire effectively in engagements along the rivers. Portuguese reports describe her soldiers as highly disciplined, attacking at night, cutting communication lines, and burning enemy supply depots to force retreats. When the Dutch captured Luanda in 1641, Nzinga seized the moment to escalate her campaign. The Portuguese, driven inland, were weakened and demoralized. Nzinga entered into an alliance with the Dutch and the Kingdom of Congo, creating a united front against Portuguese domination. Her forces joined Dutch-led operations to besiege Portuguese positions and intercept slave convoys heading toward the coast. The Afro-Dutch alliance nearly succeeded in expelling the Portuguese entirely from Angola. From 1641 to 1647, combined attacks disrupted the colonial network so severely that Portuguese control shrank to a few inland forts. Nzinga's generals coordinated with Dutch officers using interpreters, and her soldiers fought in engagements around Masangano, Mbaka, and beyond. For the first time, European gunpowder, African infantry, and indigenous strategy converged under her direction in an anti-colonial war of liberation. Nzinga's use of psychological warfare was equally striking. She sent false messages to enemy commanders, promising peace or surrender to lure them into ambushes. She spread rumors of supernatural protection, encouraging the belief that her armies were invisible in the forests. Portuguese chroniclers, both fearful and awed, recorded stories of her appearing simultaneously in different battle zones, an illusion sustained by her use of identical standards and decoys. Her troops, trained in rhythmic chants and war songs, used drums not only for morale, but also as coded signals to coordinate multi-directional assaults. The sound of her war drums became synonymous with terror among Portuguese soldiers, who often deserted before battle. Despite her ferocity, Nzinga also demonstrated a sense of restraint and long-term strategy. She avoided overextending her forces and preferred to let attrition weaken her opponents. Her wars were not fought for glory, but for the survival and autonomy of her people. She welcomed defectors from enemy ranks, integrating them into her army. Many captured Portuguese were spared and used as advisors or craftsmen blacksmiths, gunners, and masons who contributed to the building of her military infrastructure. By the mid-1640s, Matamba's army was one of the best organized in Central Africa, comprising several thousand soldiers equipped with muskets, spears, and bows, as well as cavalry mounted on hardy forest horses. The turning point came in 1648, when a large Portuguese-Brazilian fleet arrived and recaptured Luanda from the Dutch. This sudden reversal collapsed the Afro-Dutch alliance and left Nzinga exposed. While the Dutch withdrew to the coast, she refused to surrender. The Portuguese, now reinforced with colonial troops from Brazil, launched a series of punitive expeditions into the interior, hoping to crush her once and for all. Nzinga responded with strategic retreats and scorched earth tactics, denying her enemies supplies. For nearly a decade, she maintained a stalemate, using the forests of Matamba and the loyalty of her subjects to wear down superior firepower. Even as she aged, Nzinga remained at the forefront. By the 1650s, in her late 60s and 70s, she was still leading troops personally, often appearing in full armor to inspire her warriors. Her presence on the battlefield became both a political and spiritual symbol, proof that resistance would not die with her. She used her military strength as leverage in negotiations, ultimately forcing the Portuguese to recognize her rule over Matamba and, later, Ndongo itself. The 1656 treaty between Nzinga and Portugal marked a rare moment in colonial Africa, a European empire formally acknowledging an African sovereign as equal. Though it required certain trade concessions, the accord ended decades of continuous warfare and ensured that her people would not be enslaved en masse as before. Nzinga's campaigns thus spanned more than 3 decades of relentless resistance. She had begun as a fugitive queen, but ended as the undisputed ruler of a vast militarized state that outlasted most of its enemies. Her wars reshaped the political map of Angola, blunting the pace of Portuguese expansion for generations. Even Portuguese officials privately admitted that without Nzinga's defeat, colonial consolidation in the interior was impossible. Her ability to transform political exile into military dominance remains one of the most extraordinary achievements in African history, a testament to her strategic mind, adaptability, and indomitable will. After the 1640s, Nzinga transformed Matamba from a refuge for displaced Ndongans into one of the most formidable military states in Central Africa. Her leadership turned a war-ravaged society into a disciplined, self-sufficient power that could sustain prolonged resistance. Understanding that Portugal's dominance came not only from superior arms, but from a well-organized imperial system, Nzinga built her own version, a structured kingdom combining trade, intelligence, and constant martial readiness. Matamba's geography, a dense forested and riverine terrain, provided natural defenses, and Nzinga exploited this advantage by constructing a chain of fortified outposts. Each fort functioned as both a garrison and local administrative center, manned by seasoned captains and connected through concealed routes patrolled by scouts. Imbangala regiments guarded key rivers, forming a defensive barrier that secured the interior, while the Kindonga Islands remained her secret reserve base, accessible only through hidden waterways. Under her command, the Matamba army evolved into a professional standing force. Nzinga introduced a hierarchical military system blending Mbundu chieftain traditions with European discipline. Her generals, or sobas, supervised recruitment, training, and taxation, while troops drilled in both indigenous and musket warfare. She also established an elite royal guard men and women, raised as soldiers from youth who accompanied her into battle. Defying convention, Nzinga integrated women into combat and intelligence roles, turning them into vital contributors in logistics, communication, and strategy. Economically, she forged a war economy that sustained her army through trade control. By taxing merchants and reinvesting profits from ivory, palm oil, and captives into weapons and supplies, Nzinga created a self-reinforcing military system. Within her court, every council resembled a war meeting, with scouts reporting movements and campaigns planned in detail. Her emphasis on loyalty, discipline, and ritual unity made Matamba a society perpetually prepared for war. By mid-century, Nzinga had built not just a kingdom, but a military civilization, one that remained autonomous for nearly 2 centuries, standing as a lasting monument to her strategic brilliance and indomitable will. In her later years, Queen Nzinga remained a relentless leader, waging a war of endurance against the Portuguese despite age and exhaustion. Even in her 70s, she inspected fortresses and commanded troops, earning reverence as the Old Tigress. Realizing that negotiation could secure what endless war could not, she signed a 1656 treaty, recognizing her sovereignty and forbidding Portuguese slave raids. This peace restored stability and allowed her to rebuild her realm. When she died in 1663, Nzinga left behind a militarized, independent kingdom, a lasting testament to her strategic brilliance endurance, and unyielding defense of her people's freedom. Centuries later, her name still echoes through the forests of Angola. Nzinga wasn't just a queen. She was defiance made flesh. Her story is proof that Africa's crown has always been forged in fire. The war never ended. It just became memory. Subscribe to Africa History, where legends never fade.